Hello, welcome to the A-Level Biology. I wanted to share with you a little bit about the course, what it involves, and the kind of things that you'll be learning and having a chance to experience as we go through the course. So first question is it hard? Yes, biology is hard. It is one of the top four hardest subjects you can do, but that's not because it's difficult from a conceptual point of view. It's difficult because of the quantity of information that you need to take on board and learn. And the actual course itself actually has a lot of familiar territory to you. So all the stuff that you've done at GCSE, you will do again. You kind of think, well, if I've done it, why do I need to do it again? Well, partially, as it says there, we lied to you at GCSE. We simplified things to help you understand the basics, and now A-Level we're going to go into much more depth and detail. But again, we're still going to lie to you because there's a lot more detail to it than you will see. But yes, it is hard. In terms of access to the course, what do you need? Well, you will need level 5s at higher tier combined science or a level 5 at separate science. Combined are at no major disadvantage to access A-Level Biology. So don't feel that you have missed out your chance because you didn't do separates. That's not the case at all. I've got many combined scientists on the A-Level course this year, and there's one or two bits which they might not have covered in as much detail as the separates have, but it doesn't take them long to catch that up, and they don't seem to be at a disadvantage from it at all. So don't worry about it from that point of view. But you will need to be prepared to work hard. There's a lot of independent study that you will need to do outside of the lessons, and you've got to persevere and stick at it because, as I said, it is a hard subject. From the amount of information that you need to take on board and process and develop your skills of analysis and not be fazed by the difficulty of it. Okay. So where can it take you? What does it lead to? Well, I can only speak from the experience of previous students that I've taught, and some of those have gone on to do rainforest fieldwork. Indeed, my neighbour has done a PhD for Oxford University and also with Harvard as well, who have investigated the effect of light transmission through the rainforest canopies and reflection of that into the atmosphere. It was groundbreaking stuff. But you can get to climb trees and swing through the forests and do all sorts of field work with biology. There's also the more traditional lab-based stuff. So again, a colleague of mine went on to work in a lab doing genetics and was part of the Osama bin Laden DNA decoding. So again, if the lab-based work is what excites you, then you can end up there. Less traditional ones, more traditional ones. So all the medical routes, so nursing, midwifery, and doctor, all those kinds of things can be accessed by taking biology as well. One of my students combined her love of photography with her love of biology and then ended up doing wildlife photography all over the world, one of which was in Hawaii taking pictures of dolphins. So again, don't think that just because you do an artsy subject, it can't work with a science subject. It can quite a lot of the time. Also, there's a physiotherapy, sports fitness, sports science side of things that works well. We do a good portion of human biology in A-Level Biology, but there is the plant stuff in there as well. There is microbiology. It's a very broad breadth, so it does give you a really good basis from which you can then specialize after that. And then optometry. So we had one of our students previous year before last go on to study optometry, as well as veterinary as well. So we've got a student this year who's looking to pursue veterinary. So, and that's just a handful of things that you can study from having done A-Level Biology. So it's not an endless list, but again, it's broad reaching. The skills that you develop during biology of analysis, critical thinking, all those things can be applied to all sorts of different areas like accountancy, law, all sorts of things. So who teaches it? Well, at the moment I do, and then next year Mrs. Robertson will be back and will be teaching A-Level Biology as well. And lessons are split between her and myself across the 10 hours a fortnight. We generally start off the year doing a maths induction just to get you used to the kind of maths that you'll be having to do throughout the course. It's a little bit intense, but again, it just gives us a chance to go through those key things, which when we do it in the course, you'll be familiar with, or at least recognize, and it will give you a little bit more confidence when you come to do that maths. Each unit or each chapter of work will have an end of unit assessment. Again, that will help us to track who needs support as we go through the year, and it is really crucial that you kind of keep on top of that and you keep on reviewing your work and doing your wider reading. And then there'll be summative assessments just before each progress tracker as well. These will take the form of kind of mock exams with exam style questions, which you'll then need to perform well in. How is the course structured? Well, we follow OCR's Biology A, so you can look on their website. If you look at the Biology A specification, it will kind of break it down in more detail. I'm not going to use a massive amount of detail here, but I'll give you a feel for the kind of topics that you'll be doing with that. So the first unit in year 12, we do modules 2, 3 and 4 in year 12, and then modules 5 and 6 in year 13. Module 1 is the practical element, which will cover both year 12 and year 13 altogether. So in year 12, we start off with the foundations in biology. So again, this is a lot of familiar territory, so cell structure and cell function, but in much more detail. Cell division, again in more depth and detail, membranes, enzymes, biological molecules. So there's key things which everything around us is kind of built up and based upon. And then from there we go on to study the circulatory system, the heart, immunology, so how we fight off disease and infection, how we break stuff down, build stuff up. So it's all very familiar stuff from GCSE, but there will be a lot more depth, a lot more interest in terms of what we investigate and what we look at. And then year 13 is very much focused on respiration, photosynthesis, nerves, and that kind of element, as well as the more biodiversity, so looking at populations and how they change, how we study that, and how we draw conclusions and analyze that data as well. Okay, so in terms of the assessment, as you can see there, you've got 3 key papers. The first making up of 100 marks, it's 37% of the total, as is paper 2. And then we've got a paper 3, which is slightly smaller, it's 26% of the marks, but it covers the whole course, and it's kind of, the idea is to draw together all the concepts and ideas that you study over the 2-year course. And those who do well on biology really do have this overarching understanding of how these things interlink. If you think about it, it's not rocket science. You've got organisms which use all these systems and processes, and they all work at the same time to keep the organism alive. So having that understanding, that ability to see how things link together and where they interact is really important, and that's the point of the third paper. And then the last bit there is the practical endorsement, which I'll talk to you about in just a second. Okay, but it's a very broad course. As I've said, it gives you experience of lots of different aspects, from animal biology to plant biology to microbiology to immunology, all sorts of things. So it's a really good basis from which to then maybe specialize at university, or prepare you and give you the building blocks for going on to something that is built upon the biology, so like medicine or veterinary or something like that. So the practical endorsement work. Now, this is not coursework. It doesn't contribute to your end grade. However, you do need to have done these practicals to display a range of skills which exam board want you to develop over the course. And what do we do? Well, that covers things like dissections. So we do heart dissections, kidney dissections, eye dissections as we go through. Dissections I don't like to push on people. If you're squeamish, don't feel that you're going to be forced to do this. You don't have to. There are other ways around it, but it is a genuinely interesting part of biology. So getting hands-on rather than looking at a diagram or a picture of what someone else has done, you get to do the hands-on biology of it as well. We do plenty of microscopy, so you'll get to use the more expensive A-level microscopes, and we'll have a range of slides which we'll use to observe all the key histologies of the different structures we're going to look at. We'll do chemical analysis of different things, so a range of skills, so serodilutions, all sorts of things like that. and we'll do blood smears. So my year 12s at the moment are preparing blood slides, and then they're going to be examining those cells under the microscope and identifying different white blood cells, red blood cells, measuring sizes of the cells, those kinds of things. And then finally, microbiology. Again, there's an element of culturing bacteria and being able to safely handle them and then use them for study as well. So that's an important key skill that we develop. And that just gives you a little bit of a flavour. There are 12 practicals that you will need to do across the 2-year course, and each one will kind of focus on a particular set of skills that you'll go on to use potentially in a degree level course. So trips are another thing that we try to do. Now, obviously, we're in COVID at the moment, so trips are a little bit of a no-go area, but that won't be the case all the time, hopefully. So in the past, before COVID happened this year, our year 12 and 13 students got to go to Plymouth University to have a look at the electron microscopes that they have there. These are kind of £500,000 upward microscopes. And as you can see from pictures there, they got hands-on use of those microscopes and got to play around with them. So it's a brilliant opportunity which we try to run each year or every other year, so you will have a chance to play with those and produce images from them as well. And then secondly, we live in one of the most amazing places to do field work. So Wembury, if you find any fieldwork guides, you're looking at marine species, then usually the photos and the write-ups have been done based around Wembury Beach, because it's just got such a massive diversity of species. So every year we go down there and we try and do transects, identify species. So you can see a few pictures there. So we've got edible crabs that we found, cushion starfish, strawberry urchins, as well as snake-lock anemones as well. So all sorts of things and species that we can find there doing our field work. What do we expect of you? Well, we would hope that you've chosen to do biology, so you're motivated to do that, but you will get homework at least once a week from each teacher, so that's probably 2 sets per week, and you will be expected to spend between 1 and 2 hours of independent study time for every 1 hour that you spend in lesson time. So again, that is rereading back through notes that you've written down, wider reading around the subjects, and really getting to grips with the science behind it. You will be expected to write your own notes. You will have access through PowerPoints and things like that of the stuff we use in class, through Teams and various websites like that. And there's various other things that we can get to support you. So you'll be given a textbook, for instance. You have the opportunity to buy revision guides and various other texts and sources which we think would be of benefit and use to you. We expect you to keep your folders organized, so as we complete units, lessons, you put that into a folder and you keep it organized and in a logical order along with your independent study with those notes. You need to be independent. We will chase you, but this is your work. How well you do is how much you put into this. So we want you to be independent, self-disciplined learners, because that's what you're going to be expected to be once you finish A-levels. But we're also here to support you as well, so make sure you make use of us. We're often more than happy to sit down and explain through things a few times. We appreciate that the course is complex in areas and some people struggle more than others and need a little bit more support, so do ask, because that's what we're there for. So thank you for listening. I hope that gives you a flavour of what A-level biology is like. If you've got any questions, then please do ask me. You can contact me via email, grab me around school when I'm in the year 11 area. But any questions you have, please do ask. I'll try and give you clarity there or point you in the right direction in terms of course details. Thank you very much.